Good morning, good afternoon, good evening for everyone who is joining from around the world. So today you see two pictures here. These two pictures are the focus of our meeting today, which will take place more as a workshop rather than as a lecture. So please do contribute when it's time so we can learn from each other and also learn from the author himself as to what these are. So these two uh, pictures come from two articles that actually appeared in Sri Lankan newspapers in Financial Times and also in the island about a month ago. And to see freedom from political bondage, this is a crucial kind of thinking that we need if we want Sri Lanka to come across with a people voice. So I thought it's very important we discuss this. And the article itself had this picture, and it summarized and said, we have given up hope of escaping from this bondage because we have tried many times and failed every time. Now, if we continue in the same path, we will probably fail again this time as well. But as leads, I think, or we all think that this is not an impasse. If we work together, we may be able to go through this obstacle and win on the other end. That is why we are going through as much as educational exercises so that the voters will understand their responsibility and come forward to make the right decision. So that's all what we are doing. So today's meeting will be by the author himself to start, and I would like to be so grateful to Jivananda, who is also named as Jiva G, and he is the founder of Omic Science Consulting in the United States. So he'll be followed by Kugadas Ramdas, who is a computer software consultant and director, got lots of experience and ideas from Sri Lanka, and he's known as Ram. And we've already heard one some time ago when he spoke. And Lasil De Silva, who is a retired director, parliamentary administration and legal services, and he will speak after that. And also, finally, Ranjan De Silva. He is a retired brigadier and a lawyer. So we have a mix of people who will talk about why we need freedom from political bondage. So this is crucially important subject. So just to summarize, I thought I was just trying to compare the colonial rule and the current rule we have. So this will kind of give some thought as to why really we should think about coming off this political bondage. So 300 years or so, we had colonial rule from Portuguese and then the Dutch and English. So what they did basically, there was exploitation of the people in some kind of way. So they exported all that is valuable for them. True. They bought these cheap and sent it abroad, and profits were retained abroad. That's what they did. So enhanced education, they did provide education to promote loyal servants and stooges. That's also happened. Used fear and violence to control dissent. That happened in all the colonial countries. We know that. And then they controlled exploitation to prevent crisis. So the exploitation was not right to the roots. So it happened, but there was no crisis. Everybody kind of felt comfortable and it was developing. So because of this situation, eventually we understood our weaknesses. We wanted to get it stronger, had discussions and everything else. Finally, we got independent in 1948. Now, since 1948, 75 or 76 years have gone now. And see what's our local colonialists have done. So I call them local colonialists or our politicians. What did they do? They still exploited the people. and they export all that is valuable. That is also they did because they need the currency, foreign currency. Okay. So they imported expensive, overpriced items, including fuel, and retained the excess abroad for their benefit and de-emphasize the education. Now, here's a crucial system to promote loyal stooges. Now, there was one time only 1% of the GDP was used for all of the education sector, including universities and so on. So you can see what kind of treatment we got in Sri Lanka for education. Then used fear and violence to control dissents. That's clear. We've seen it. We are seeing it now. Did not control exploitation because as the stooges must gain most before they lose power. So that went on. So we ended up in bankruptcy in 2022. So the foreign colonialists and local colonialists, there isn't a lot of difference, but they will root it out right to the opponent. So that's why we need to come out of this political bondage. And I welcome G. I can see he's here. Jivananda, you're there. I'll stop sharing here.
All right. Can you see my slide, Chula?
Yeah, I can see. Yes, that means everybody should be able to see it. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thank you
All
very much.
right. Thank you very much, Chula, for inviting me to this discussion. Hi to everybody. Uh, uh, First of all, I think I should tell a little bit about myself. I graduated from Peradeniya with a chemistry degree. And then after that, I left the country for graduate studies. I earned a PhD in medicinal chemistry and ended up staying here. So my expertise is in medicinal chemistry, but as aside from that, or as a result of my research interests, oh, by the way, so I have been working for the pharmaceutical industry here for 35 years or so, and I have contributed to the discovery and development of at least 5 clinically used anti-cancer drugs, which I am very proud of. Uh, yes, and the during my research, as an extension of my research, I undertook the study or the investigation of human psychology and consciousness, evolutionary development of human consciousness, which is a tough project. But as a result of that, I started looking at myself. Who am I and how I became this way? And then, as an extension of that, I ended up looking at the society that I grew up in Sri Lanka in my early years. So I made some observations and started writing to papers, as Chula pointed out. One of those, the title for this discussion came from one of those um, discussions, uh, the research I did. So I'm hoping to share some of the observations that I made during my studies, this investigation. First of all, I'd like to make some disclaimers. Probably you are not going to see anything new in my presentation because all these things came from published data in journals, textbooks, and so on. All what I am trying to do is present the data and analyze them and see if we can learn anything from them to make ourselves better. The second one is that I will try to be objective. If you have any questions, please note the slide. It will take maybe about 15 to 20 minutes. And please note the slide number at the bottom right-hand corner of the slide so that we can go back to them if necessary during the discussion time. So the synopsis of the my talk is as Chula described, um, our people seems to be in despair. people have given up any hope of escaping from the current situation as all their prior efforts have failed. It's a sort of, they feel that they are in a sort of a bondage. And as you'll see, the root cause of this situation is the bad governance. Generations of politicians have misled the electorate for the sole purpose of staying in power. And unfortunately, these two processes feed into each other and continue the cycle. So the way I look at it, the remedy for this problem is rational thinking, or in other words, seeing things as they really are and acting accordingly. The historians or the anthropologists would say that as breaking away from the storytelling tradition. I will explain that in a little while what is the storytelling tradition is. So I would like to focus on the present in this discussion, what's going on right now in the country. As Chula said, we um, we have had many discussions about the past, how we got here, especially very recently, Leonard spent 2 sessions taking us back to 3,000 years and explaining how we got into this situation. And looking into the future, similarly, a number of presentations, especially Ram and Lucille, explained, what should be done, what can be done in the future to remedy this situation. I don't think anyone would argue about, what they present with what they presented. We must do them. We should do them. But however, I see a hurdle or a obstacle getting in our way. That is, this current system would not allow us to implement any such progressive systems in the country because the that would hamper their agenda, and they will do anything and everything to prevent us from getting there. I think many of our past speakers have explained how this system was put in place and evolved with incremental changes to bring us this situation where we have there's no option for us to break away from that. As Chula pointed out, that maybe that's how it appears, but there's no reason why we cannot break away from this situation, because unlike any other situations of bondage, like slavery or serfdom and things like that, this is a condition that we, the people, created for ourselves. Therefore, we, the people, should be able to break away from that as well. So this is the typical condition for the actually this they call it the conditions for a failed state, but I don't want to go that far. Let's say how a bad governance come into being. Since it's a cyclic process, I don't know where you can start anywhere. We'll start with the bad governance. I will go through this quickly, and then in the after that we can discuss each and every item in detail and see how what conditions are in happening in Sri Lanka and what things may or may not apply to the Sri Lankan situation. So the bad governance leads to, in briefly, it leads to corrupt bureaucracy. Corrupt bureaucracy leads to social disparity, which creates a privileged class and a deprived class. In this case, I took numbers from the Sri Lankan situation, a report that came up, a UN report that came up, I think, last year. According to that, 1% of the population owns 30% of the national wealth, which is the privileged class. And on the other hand, the deprived or underprivileged class, which makes up, for example, the 50% of the deprived class owns only 4% of the national wealth. So that's the social disparity that exists in the country today. So the privileged class dominate politics, they manipulate media, exploit resources and economy to suit their needs. And this leads to a kleptocracy, meaning where the thieves rule, and that feeds into the bad governance. On the other side of the blue side, the deprived class, they have sub-par education, poor health services, and less opportunities for participating in the economy and social mobility. Because of the sub-par education and also the manipulation of information by the privileged, they become unable to take part in proper democracy. So that leads to erosion of participatory democracy, and then once again that leads to bad governance. So these two cycles, the left and the right, feed into each other and continue the cycle of bad governance and this social disparity and the bondage. If you look at the right-hand side of the cycle, it's driven by greed. Unfortunately, there's not much we can do about it. For example, the major religion in the country is the focus of the major religion is greed, but it has not, it has failed, in fact, in curbing the greed. On the other hand, the other side is driven by ignorance and hatred to a certain extent. But let's leave aside the hatred part, but the ignorance part, we should be able to address and help us break this cycle. So let's see how we can do this. Now, the bad governance is characterized by bad policies, failure to implement policies, inconsistencies with rule of law, lack of transparency, lack of accountability, not responsive to needs, autocratic decision-making, and not being equitable and non-inclusive, and also overall inefficient. The corrupt bureaucracy leads to nepotism, favoritism, bribery, graft, patronage, and other behavior, both by officials as well as the public, for gaining favors that are socially and legally prohibited. This leads to wasted taxpayer funds, loss of goods and services, lower community confidence in public authorities, disadvantages to honest businesses seeking to obtain government contracts, decrease in investment, decline of human capital, political instability, economic instability, and inhibits overall economic growth. Now, these are the activities that give opportunities to legal, political, economic rights as well as benefits to some part of the society, but not to the others. So that's how we end up with social disparity. Now, in Sri Lankan situation, I took the earlier I took the two extremes, the deprived and the privileged, but it exists as a continuum. There are people who fall in between or between these two extremes. It is also we must should not ignore the fact that even though this I indicated as deprived privilege as extremes, there are people who have earned their wealth by legal or genuine ways. We should not. I mean, they are all not crooks. We must acknowledge that. The So the result of this social disparity is the health and social problems, high rates of health issues, social challenges. We are beginning to see, the increase in crime, substance abuse, violence, and reduce social investments, more importantly, education and infrastructure, healthcare. The hampers social mobility, and it creates the population-wide unrest and creates a happiness gap. Impact on economic growth, neglected human capital, because the majority of the population do not get a chance to take part in the economy. And then more relevant to our discussion, the political consequences, it creates the political dysfunction and feeds into the continuation of the conditions. And then also this contributes to the reduced demand for goods and services, thereby the hampering the economic development, and also the factional disparities in the income gap. Now, these factors affect all the citizens, irrespective of their racial, ethnic, linguistic, religious, party, caste, north or south, or whatever divisions that you can think of. These factors impact the entire population of the country. Now, the privileged may not realize it, but if you look at the history of the world, they will also be impacted one day or another. So the most unfortunate aspect, the additional aspect of this is that the economic disparity breeds tension. The social and anthropological scholars are of the opinion that the tribal mentality, which is the tribal mentality, is the human tendency to connect with and seek out people who share similar interests, habits, or beliefs, meaning we tend to group or form clans, is they see it as a part of human evolution. And these tribal sentiments are here to stay. We may not be able to get rid of them completely. However, what's important to note is that the economic disparity can elevate such sentiments into destructive tensions. On the other hand, the economic prosperity keeps them at bay, under control. So we have to pay attention to what this the where this tribal mentality comes from, and that's where the this storytelling tradition comes in. The As I said, this storytelling tradition, this fact is studied by anthropologists, evolutionary biologists, and whole of people. Among them, this Yuval Noah Harari has explained this in very simple terms in a book he wrote for children called In Unstoppable Us. It's very interesting reading, and he explained this very simple terms. So it's generally accepted that what differentiates us humans from animals is this our storytelling ability. In fact, they think that even the Neanderthals became extinct because they lacked that storytelling ability compared to the humans. So, unfortunately, while it is a evolutionary trait of the humans, it has both good and bad consequences. Some of the stories are stories, so they can have uh, unintended consequences, bad consequences. So Harari says that we adults may not be able to unlearn the damaging stories we were told, but we can at least stop them from propagating through generations. Now, we Sri Lankans have a great storytelling tradition, of which we are very proud. Now, for example, they think that we have the oldest chronicle in Southeast Asia, or if not for the in the world, and so forth. But unfortunately, this tradition is so strong in our culture that we have been trained to accept them all as absolute truth without ever asking questions. Our tradition discourages questioning the tradition. So that's one way of continuing the cycle, especially when these stories come from people of authority, adults and people who are in responsible positions in the society. So the net result of this tradition is that unfortunately this has blunted our critical thinking ability. And unfortunately, once again, the politicians and rulers continue to exploit this our human weakness to gain power and stay in power, and in what they call using the age-old tactic of divide and rule. So unfortunately, the result is an extremely selfish, dysfunctional society that gets trapped in this vicious cycle, unable to think and get out of, unable to think of a way to get out of it. Now, for example, a recent example of such a bad story. I hate to give legitimacy to the story, but this came up a couple of days ago in all over the national press. The story says the Sinhalese and especially the Sinhalese Buddhists are now relegated to the second tier. Buddhist culture, history, and traditions are again being mocked and insulted. Some monks are being insulted individually, and the Mahasangha in general has also suffered insults. Sites of archaeological value are being targeted by various parties. Even the issue of elephants in temples has come to the fore once again. Politicians are more interested in looking after the minorities to get votes in elections rather than upholding the rights of Sinhalese and Sinhala Buddhists. Now, I will leave you to judge how much of these things are facts, how much are true, how much is true, and what would be the end result, and what kind of impact this kind of stories can have on the society at large, and what the authors of this, what's the mentality and the purpose or the agenda of the authors of these stories like this. So the remedy, as I alluded to at the beginning, is to we have to see things as they really are, which requires critical thinking. So we have to realize that the primary driver of the cycle is our allegiance to tribal mentality. So because of that, as a result, the real issue, the bad governance, is overlooked in favor of our personal or tribal gains. The disastrous effects of bad governance are felt by all citizens, but this selfish or tribal mentality prevents us from escaping this bondage. So the first step in freeing ourselves from this cycle is would be to set aside tribal interests and prevent the storytellers from coming back to power. So the immediate action that we can take in the immediate future is, when it comes to the election time, we must vote with our head, not with our heart. So the bottom line or the summary of uh, my thesis is that pursuing tribal interests will only perpetuate the cycle. So our problem is, the challenge is how to take this message to the masses, how to simplify this complex condition and educate the masses. It's not going to be easy. It may take several generations or more, but that is no reason for us to give up. We have to start taking whatever the action that we could to put us on the path to breaking away this from cycle. So I looked in the literature and tried to come up with some slogans, one-liners that we can take to the people. There are a few. Insanity is defined as doing the same thing, expecting different results. That's apparently Einstein came up with. And if you make the same mistake twice, you learned nothing. The same mistake can be made twice only by choice. If the same mistake is repeated, it becomes the tradition, which is what has happened in Sri Lanka right now, I would say. We are the product of our past mistakes, but we do not have to be prisoners to them. The last one I came up with, the last one, no matter what you do not vote for the same crooks again. So that's all I have to contribute right now. So I will leave it at that. And Chula, you can take back the screen control. Thank you.
Sorry, my mic was off. Thank you, G. It was fantastic that you summarize what's really happening in Sri Lanka, because that's kind of the route that we have to think how to go forward. And it's important that we try to get this message across. So I don't think, it's not an impulsive. We should be able to gain and proceed. So keeping into the style of a workshop, can I go through the next three speakers and then come to the discussion? Is that okay with you, Jay?
Oh yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Unless somebody has. I think I
No,
took my.
three people wrote to me they will speak
Yeah.
because we
So
were
let's
trying to
let's
prepare the
continue
workshop. Yeah.
because I took my 30 minutes. So let's
Yeah, great.
continue. Yeah.
So can I invite next Ram? Are you there, Ram? Ram,
Yeah,
yeah. So yes, you can speak, please. Thank you.
yeah. Uh, I think I thought I will speak only for 5 minutes.
That's fine.
This
Yeah,
one
good.
as well, yes. But after listening to the previous one, I thought I will make little more time. All
Yeah,
right. The uh, thing I have already talked about the solutions 4 weeks back. So I don't want to repeat that again, except that to say that we need to have a governance system that will work well despite bad components that will make up the system. That's what I wanted to say. On the second thing I really wanted to say is I wanted to speak for 5 minutes based on uh, the diagram that was sent to me on participative democracy. Okay, what is exactly meant by participative democracy? We see a lot of civil society groups clamoring for various changes. And of course, it will not be listened to by the government because they have everything on their side. So my question is civil action groups are really required for a participative democracy? In my understanding, our participative democracy should be limited to voting at the elections and choosing the right set of people for legislature and executive. Because as an individual, I have got a specialized task to perform. I should be focusing on that to generate the wealth of the society. I should not be getting involved in the governance in a day to day life. So, whatever why I am doing right now is because system has gone so bad. Otherwise, if my time is to be productively spent on a national perspective, I should be spending the time on IT or accounting, doing things to improve the IT systems or accounting systems, instead of which I am participating in the governance system, which is a waste of national resource. We should devise a system by which the governance will work on its own without having the civil society people to get involved in clamoring and asking for things. In fact, about 4 or 5 years ago, I addressed a NGO meeting in the Northern East. And I told them in the meeting that if the governance system was working perfectly, there is no need for this NGO. What this NGO is doing is what the government should have done. I know that didn't go well with the head of NGO, but that's a fact. So, a participatory governance should be limited to us deciding at the time of election whom should we elect to run the government. And the government should be in a position to do the best things for the citizen. That's how the governance system should be designed. And if it is participatory, the government should go and ask the citizens regularly by some mechanism whether things are working perfectly. Not the other way, citizens going and complaining to the governance government, things are not working perfectly. If the things I read in Tamil literature of thousands of years ago, there is a tradition for the king, even in a monarch system, not in a democratic system, even in a monarch system, the king used to go in disguise to find out what is happening in the country. So if it can happen in the monarch system, why can't it happen in the democratic system? Instead of the citizen going and complaining, why can't the government go and find out how exactly things are for the citizen? We should be able to design a system such that the government will be forced to go to the citizens and find out how things are. And of course, we can't have a utopian state, but we should come very closer to a perfect state. The cost of perfection is infinite according to statistics, so we cannot have a perfect system. At least we come to that one, and we should design a governance system that will be on its own, work for the good of the people without the people having to interfere in terms of civil society, protest, and things of that nature. So we should design a system. Unfortunately, we a lot of us are led by the piper and going into the mountain because the all the political parties tell the presidential system is the cause of all the problem, and we dance to the same tune without looking at it. The Westminster system does a Westminster system gives the executive the power to control the legislature. And we are still wanting to go back to that one. So, this is what I wanted to tell. But after listening to the previous speaker, I want to add few things more. If we wanted to change it by voting in the election, we cannot change it. Even if you want with your, not with the heart, but with your brain, we cannot do that because we do not have a choice. All the political parties that are here, they wanted to take power and they still wanted to have both the executive and legislative power in their hands. The sad thing is, there are a lot of people who wanted to make change. I have worked with several groups, but I find most of these groups are worse than the political parties as at right now. It's a sad thing. So we should try to find people who are willing to change and who are willing to abide by it and form a new political group. That is the need of the hour. Without it, we cannot change anything. We cannot vote with our head, not by heart. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ram. Two things I want to say is number one, don't undervalue yourself. You are hugely contributing to get this path right. And a lot of us who were in very different specialties did not want to get governance, have now got involved and discussing how to do this is because that's the only way we can go forward. And so we want to get it right. And that's what we are doing. And we are slowly progressing, I must say. And the other thing that we want is we want your contributions. So now you can see different aspects being talked about. And even doing education, the public, and sharing their knowledge itself will form a different kind of thinking in the voters, and that itself is actually invisible political conscience or political party which will not have a name. So that is what we are trying to do. And thank you very much. And I'm sure there'll be discussion. In the discussion, you'll have questions. So I will take this time to now invite Lasil. He's just joined. Lasil. Are you there, Lasil? Yeah, Lasil.
Sorry, I got little held up. Some guys wanted me to come up. Actually, they just visited our place and they wanted certain things clarified. Actually, some people who are in the village, so I just couldn't
That's
help.
okay. It's we are
I
talking about political bondage. We had two different views about initially about tribal thinking and why we can't change tribal thinking, and also how to change tribal thinking. So, and then there was the talk from Ram saying we need to have a basically differently thinking political party. But the initial speaker was telling that we should speak up, not from your heart, but from using your head, understanding the reality. So that's basically the summary for you to catch up on what we are talking about. Basically, we are talking about this political bondage and how we are going to get rid of it. So that's what we are really talking about.
Thanks, Chula. I'm happy about the summary you gave me, and I was lucky that I heard almost at the very end when Ram concluded his speech. Basically, Ram, you said that the present lot who are really fighting with the government are even worse than the current set of politicians. I totally reject that. I'm sorry. Now, people came out onto the street because they just couldn't tolerate. I mean, they were so sick of the whole thing. Over a period of time, they have been struggling. Even in my case, we have been, even when we were in service, we were fighting very hard in the service, right? So, unfortunately, on two occasions, last almost at the tail end of my career, when we were doing all our whatever job to the best of our ability, what happened? They threw me out. I have no regrets whatsoever. Similarly, even during the just early part of 2000, I was sent on compulsory. This is the culture that is there in the public sector. So the same thing is there even in the society. You will see there are a lot of problems. Actually, those were creations of the governments, successive governments from the 70s. Now, you and I have an argument always whether the Salisbury Constitution, after all, uh, was also responsible. I don't say no. Our country was governed by a set of people who really thought that they are a law unto themselves. So this is a thing that needs to be changed, and that is why we have, for that purpose, having carefully studied, having carefully understood how other countries manage to govern, countries a lot better. And I think we are trying to sort of set an example to the rest of the world, because even in those so-called developed countries there is a problem, and they say there is corruption, they say there is mismanagement, they say sometimes there are even in the judiciary there are different things. Now in state, we remember who is this Floyd during COVID days or whatever. I mean, he was brutally assaulted and he was killed on the road. So that was police, armed forces. It happens in a bigger way here. At the same time, those problems, unfortunately, have not been resolved or have not been even gone into. And they continue to do such things in order to keep the general public away, so that they can run, they can run governance the way they want. No, we totally object that, because ours is a democratic country. Constitutionally we have certain rights, but even those rights are being crushed, you know I mean, in an undemocratic way. That happens even in other countries. So like what I said, even in America, So what I'm trying to say, our situation is even worse. But as a set of people who are committed to fight those evils, we are doing it with a purpose, with a commitment. Now actually even my children are overseas, I can comfortably go there and just do whatever we want. And my particularly they also telling me tati monada me, now you all are old people ogolonta oka karanna ba, at least come here, enjoy life and all that. No, that's not the way. We are determined to do that because I mean, the poor taxpayer have done so much for us, and we are there now in this position because the state fortunately looked after us. But now the state doesn't do anything at all for the youth. So this is our duty to, I mean, fulfill our obligations towards the society. And possibly it's a lot difficult, but we are not giving it up. We are still struggling very hard because as citizens in a country where a democratic constitution is in place yet, and we are able to fight back because I mean, whatever said and done, even my family, they always scold me the megulu mono karai that time umma tirisan war kai me kya kela, I mean, that's the feeling everywhere. But unfortunately or fortunately, still a lot of them are struggling hard because we really want this change. Now let me say the duty as a group of people who are really inclined to change all this whatever say change governance system. I mean, my main contribution, what I'm really thinking is, if possible, to change the governance system because it is the governance system that helps. Now, see, you all would have. I mean, there are a lot of friends probably here overseas, and they know what's happening basically here. Imagine the central bank, right? Haphazardly, arbitrarily. What did they do? They thought that they have all the powers because it's an independent department. No, they can't do that kind of thing. That is the problem in this country. Unfortunately, those who have අර හැන්ද තියෙන එකු හැන්ද තමන්ට බෙදා ගන්නවා වගේ එහෙම කරන්න බෑ මේ රටේ නීතියක් තියෙන. ඉතින් ඒ නීතිය ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙන්නේ නැති නිසා තමයි අද මේ තත්ත්වය ඇවිල්ලා තියෙන්නේ. මම කියන්න කැමති, I mean, laws, rules, regulations. Actually, they should use all that, not in their own interest, for the public good. I mean, even the president, the legislature appears to be working together differently to look after a small minority of their friends and relations, all of them, or even businessmen and all that. So these things are undemocratic. Those are selfish, I would say. They act irresponsibly. That's what we are trying to tell everybody. Get together. Now, I don't agree. The people who are committed and who are fighting, even on the streets, there are problems because there are, even in the civil society. I don't like to sort of say that there are. I mean, there are a large majority. There may be in a society. You can't expect everybody to be 100% clean. But we have a system. We think it is always better if there are bad guys, bad eggs. I think we should be able to tell them and probably get them onto the right track if we are really committed. On the whole, what has happened now? See, they are also facing those problems. And some of these guys, particularly now, look at Kehli Ramukwales, right? Actually, why did they fight so hard? I mean, there may be people. Sometimes we also feel whether there are guys. Sometimes they don't even respect the others who are there in the team because they think, oh, I did. Mama kare, mama matai make a known credit. මං කිව්වා ඔය ක්‍රෙඩිට් ගැන නෙවෙයි කතා කරන්නේ අපේ යුතුයකම ගැන. එහෙම ඒ වගේ පුද්ගලයෝ ඉන්නවා. But at the same time, collectively, I think there may be just a small number of people who may not be 100% honest. Maybe they have their whatever personal agenda. That is not a problem because everywhere, as I said, there may be bad eggs. So whatever said and done, it is very important. Big picture, the parliament has failed, country has failed, institutions have failed because they are looking after themselves, and we are there fighting hard in order to bring in some discipline to the country. And if the good people could get together, whatever it is, I think that's what we should do, Ram. We should not condemn the others are bad, because I mean, naturally there'll be bad people again, to say it that way. So whatever said and done, now even constitutionally, we can keep on fighting, we can struggle, we can do all that, because there are instances even after having been taken into custody for simply protesting or whatever. Actually, the judiciary has been large-hearted enough. They said they are the rights of the citizens and all that. So likewise, whatever it is, we are still in a position to ensure that things could be changed. So what I am trying to say, what I am always very very with very, I would say sincerely, my humble request is, even I'm very happy Chula and them also. What a great thing, because they are enjoying all the comforts in those good countries, better countries, developed countries, and still you're concerned about these things. That is what is really needed. I'm very happy. Most of my friends actually, having seen the last discussion we had, this on 5 pillar, number of friends from overseas called me and told me, Lasil, it was very good. So naturally, I think I'm happy they are also watching what's happening here. And if possible, all what we could do is, අර සිංහල කතාවක් තියෙනවා, ධර්මිතිය එකට ගත්තොත් කඩන්න බෑ. At the වශයෙන් individually, if we allow people to sort of even struggle, changing governments and all that, that might be a problem for those individuals. Actually, we are sometimes fighting all alone, but that's another story. What I'm trying to say, I think, like Chula, I invite all my friends, even here, there may be a lot of friends who are who are overseas now. Actually, we have a duty now, even in my case, I personally think, I mean, I have a debt which I cannot repay to the government or to the general public, because everything has been provided to us. Education, actually, even for the first time, I was lucky, at the age of 26, 25 or 26. I mean, I was lucky to go to India for my first training. So thereafter, number of countries, Malaysia, England, Canada, all those countries, Switzerland, so many. So what I'm trying to say, we have a duty, because we have been taken care of by the general public, having spent tax money for us, and we were lucky even to invest all that for our children, and they are doing a lot better. So it is my humble request, we should not try to find fault with people good heartedly, with all that love and affection. I mean, I think we could change it. There's no two words about it. Only thing what we really need to do is, if possible, let's tell everybody that the parliament has failed, and they didn't prevent abuse, say all kinds of arbitrary behavior, say again, what should I say, unconstitutional conduct and all that. I think without any problem we should be able to do all that. So let's make use this forum in order to do something like that. And if necessary, let's try and propose those changes what we have been discussing about the 5 pillars, and there are so many others, including various other constitution amendments, because you will not be able to do in one shot. There may be a few other steps also that may be needed. I think still, my only, I'm confident that we could certainly do that. I'm ready to answer if in case there's anything, because you know can I do I have to say go on?
Lasil, yes, thank you for that summary and everything. We are running like a workshop. Again, one more
Yeah,
speaker is remaining, that's Ranjan. And then after that, we can have a discussion with all four of you. So
please.
the next speaker is going to be Ranjan. But before that, Lasil just mentioned about Kelia or the health minister's one corrupt issue. And I really want to highlight the kind of damage that's happening with very simple thing. So the issue in one of the things was import of rituximab. Rituximab, one vial costs about $3,000. Now imagine that somebody is importing distilled water in those bottles and saying that is rituximab. and taking $3,000 of public money for their use. Imagine that's the kind of corruption that we are facing. And this is only just a little bit, maybe tip of the iceberg as to what is happening. And this is why we are in such a bad state. And I thought because lots of the non medical people will not understand the gravity of this. That is why I told that. So let's go to Ranjan. Ranjan, yes, Ranjan. Thank you.
Thank you. Uh, Jivananda's analysis or dissection of the problem of bondage is really professional, really super, first class. I admire that analysis and I congratulate him. Next, I think we have, all systems, everything decays. Anything man-made or not. See, we all know that even one day, Earth will have an ending, even Earth, our planet Earth. So that is the law of nature. You see, and even governance is the same. It decays. Now we have reached, Sri Lanka has reached the point, has now reached ground zero back again. You see, it's time now for us to reset the button, press the reset button and go back to basics. Press the reset button and go. I think Obama also said this when he, on the eve of him becoming president of the United States. We are there. You see, we must remind the people that it is the people who are sovereign. And the sovereign powers, because the sovereign powers cannot be exercised by 22 million people, we have to find an agent. And it is that agent that we, by vote, select, and we give it that special name, the government. So the government is only an agent. By the way, it reminds me that even during colonial times, even during a foreigner was ruling this country, the British, when the government wrote to the people, the letter ended up by saying, "Your obedient servant." This is to remind the people always and every time that the government is their servant. Can you believe that? I have come across very recently also in old letters of olden times with that reminder, "Your obedient servant, so and so signed, government agent or DRO or whatever." I think we have partly got rid of that. Who did this? Our own people. Not this very bad government. We are saying we won't hesitate to condemn colonial rule. But here is an example to judge for yourself. Okay. I don't think today's government servants write that when they conclude their letters to the people. So we have to go back to basics and remind the people that we are the sovereign people and the government is our agent and there is a social contract. Under the social contract, we give the government a certain period of time, in Sri Lanka 5 years, and at the end of 5 years, it is up to the people, the sovereign people, to evaluate their performance and decide whether the same set should be re-elected or a new team should be elected and put in place. That responsibility rests entirely on the shoulders of the sovereign people. But it has so happened over the years, 75, 76 years, the people of the sovereign people have been divided up. See, by design, intention, or craft, whatever the reason, we'll leave that aside. You see, we now find ourselves utterly divided and become partisan. You see, we are either blue or red or green or something else. You see, and we are also divided up on race and religion and schools and whatever. You see, it is because of this disunity among us that the agent has got on top of us and are now become the masters and are now exploiting us. And they have reached such a point that the sovereign people are utterly helpless, utterly helpless. So this is a time for the sovereign people to remind themselves that it is our own disunity, whether it is caste, creed, religion, race, ethnicity, whatever, then parties, that it is our own division, breakup, lack of unity that is making us suffer. So let us, close ranks. That is what we should do. We should close ranks. And I think, you see, the best that the civil society activists like leads, what they can do is to take this message to the people and get all these different groupings on various groupings based on various grounds of race, religion, and as I told you, we all know that. So I don't have to explain. All together and stand as one body, or at least 7 million of them. If we can do that, I think we have won the battle of bringing back sovereignty to the people once again. Right. Now, it was also mentioned that that supervision is an essential part of government. See, the price of democracy, it has been said, is eternal vigilance. You can't leave the government alone to do what it wants and expect them to deliver. People are corrupt. The corruption is now somebody, I think it was Lord Acton who said, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. You see, that is part of human nature. You see, we are all corrupt. You see, given a chance, I don't know how. There was only one Mother Teresa. There was only one Mahatma Gandhi. There was only one Nelson Mandela. Okay? Out of 8 billion people, you have to go by the realities of the reality. Everybody will, given a chance, very few people will remain honest. And even if they remain honest, they will die unheard, unsung, and their achievement will not be admired at all. In Sri Lanka, they were very honest people. Sir John Kotalawala, they were very honest public servants, politicians. Sir John Kotalawala, when he was the minister, he built a school in his electorate. On the day of the opening of that school, several speeches were made praising him for the service he has done to his electorate, Durangas Landa. In his speech, he said this: "You all don't have to praise me for building this school. It is not necessary for you to praise me. Why? Because I did not build this school with my money. I did not build this school with my money. I awarded a certain contract in the harbor to a French company. He was a minister of transport at the time, and harbors came under his ministry. So he said, I awarded a contract to a French company. They gave me a commission. I built the school with that commission, not with my money. So don't praise me, right? So there have been good people. And did we praise him? Did we admire him? No, we didn't admire him. He was not a great man. He was condemned. He was told, he's too much of a ladies' man. He likes skirts very much. That is what mattered to us. Not the good things he did to the people. Right. Then I'll give you another example. Anil Munasinghe. Anil Munasinghe was a chairman, LSSP man, chairman of the Ceylon Transport. He bought some buses from then Yugoslavia, which is not a country any longer. They gave him a commission. That company in Yugoslavia gave him a commission. What did he do? He said, no, for that value of that commission, give cars for use by the staff of the Ceylon Transport Board. I remember those cars. They were Fiat, left-hand drive Fiat cars assembled in Yugoslavia. He also drove one of them, left-hand drive Fiat cars. That was the car he drove, and he himself drove. And he was one of the finest chairman of the Ceylon Transport Board. One of the not fine, I think he is the finest chairman. Why do I say that? When the government changed, and UNP came back, the UNP told him, you can carry on as the chairman. Who will win? Tell me one other person who was honored with that offer. Tell me one other person. The government that defeated Sirima's government, you see, belonging to another party, tells Anil Munasinghe, you can carry on as a city chairman. That was the kind of recognition. I don't think any other person in Sri Lanka has got that honor. I can think of another who got that honor at the UN level. I'll say that also. That is Shirley Amarasinghe. When Shirley Amarasinghe was appointed Sri Lanka's representative at the UN by Sirima Bandaranayaka's government. Sirima Bandaranayake was searching for a suitable man among his team of Yako fellows, couldn't find a suitable man, and finally she was advised to send Shirley Amarasinghe, not a SLFP supporter at all. So he was sent to the UN. After that, then in the meanwhile, the government changed and JR came to power. When JR came to power, he refused to extend the term of Shirley Amarasinghe. Why? Because he was appointed by Mrs. Bandaranaike. When the UN other countries came to know that Shirley Amarasinghe's term was not going to be extended by his own country, there were other countries who offered their seat to him. There were other countries who offered their seat to him. What do you think of? Those are the standards, the benchmarks of honor, not these doctorates and professorships. That is the benchmark of honor and dignity and capability. There was more than one country offered because he had done such a great service as chairman of the Law of the Sea. To large extent, the Law of the Sea, recognized by UN and the other countries, was drafted by him under his chairmanship. So these are two examples that I mentioned, see, to show. I don't know. I think I have gone a little off the track. I'm sorry. I was trying to say that we have to remind, I think, our bounden duty as civil society activists, our bounden duty is to remind the people that you all are the sovereign people. These are your powers, that it is your division, disunity that is causing the problem and allowing the agent to trample you. You can remember, you even show the picture that Jivananda, that cartoon that Jivananda had drawn. You see, that's an excellent. I think that drives home the point that I'm making. See, if we can do that, I think we can make a change. Otherwise, as things go, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, as things go, I think the same rotten lot will come back. They have played their cards on the political chessboard, as I said, very well. I think they have a very good chance of coming back. Thank you.
Thank you, Ranjan, for that talk and also summary about the past. I mean, I'm very impressed with the talks today, so we'll be going to the discussion now. But the two things that we probably have to take home message is that the tribal instincts. Now, we all have tribal instincts because of our backgrounds, our childhood, and everything else, plus our training. So it's about time that we kind of undermine or keep away from our tribal instincts and then work to bring back sovereignty to people. That's what Ranjan just summarized. And divide and rule. Now we heard about divide and rule from G and divide and rule. So we should try to undermine or disregard or repel any effort they brought by people in meetings, etc., to divide and rule. So that's the crunch of it. And the statement that G showed about the Buddhist monks issue is again another statement that's been put forward to promote this divide and rule issue. And that's exactly we should go away from and then try to bring back sovereignty to the people, and that's fine. So the platform is open for discussion, and anybody wants to raise questions from the four speakers, we are welcome. Yes, G. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for Ram, Lucille, and Ranjan for contributing their ideas. So I think, Ranjan and I kind of share the same thoughts that, we should unite and try to do something, which is probably the thing to do. So Ram, that doesn't mean that, I disagree with Ram and Lasil. I truly appreciate, what you are suggesting, the system change. I remember Ram talked about, a couple of weeks ago that, the value of the US system, I can attest to you that, how strong the system, how the system survives in spite of bad actors coming into play and so on. At the same time, Lasil, I truly appreciate, the 5-pillar system that you are proposing. There's absolutely merit that, that is how we should be working. We should try to get in place. My question is, though, what is the mechanism by which we can get them implemented when the current system is totally against us getting anything like that anywhere near the system?
Anything else?
Can I?
Nirmalan, you got questions as well?
Yes, I have questions.
Yes, please.
Particularly
aimed at Jivananda.
Yeah.
Now, we are all talking about getting these divided people together, right? And I think that to do that, we have to have not a story of the sort that Jiva was talking about, but we do need a very clear tone at the top. And we do need strong structures or conventions and rules at least that support that tone at the top. And whatever is said by the tone at the top must be based on the reality that there is only one human species and there is only one planet Earth, and planetary resources are distributed unevenly, and nation states have arbitrarily begun to restrict access to these resources. Now, what is going on now is that nation states, based on their strength, are attempting to gather and use these resources in their own interests rather than in the interests of the species as a whole. And this is what has led in the past and even in the present to genocide and the phenomena that we call colonialism and imperialism, which are brutal, maybe unthinking, unconscious moves in this direction of forceful unification. The only good thing that has come out as a result of understanding the forceful nature of this attempt at unification and its counterproductiveness, perhaps, is the United Nations organization. Now, a country like Sri Lanka is a very small country. We have not got a very big source of resources to play the same game. We have to strategically utilize global finances, global trade, global capital, and global markets to give the people of this country a decent and enjoyable lifestyle. Now, how many of us are seriously interested in formulating a tone at the top that will be able to fare better in terms of capturing the imagination of people than the stories that are doing the rounds? That is my question. How many of us?
Any answer to that?
So can I come in,
Yeah,
Chula?
okay, yeah.
So okay, Nirmalan, I think you had a very good question. I think I also asked the same question from our other two participants. Let's see if they will respond. About the artificial unification, if I may comment on that, I think so. The people will have to look at the situation that they are in. For example, okay, do I want to fight for the number of stripes in the national flag or the color of the national flag? Or do I want to fight for the kids who are fainting in school because they didn't have a meal for 2 days? Okay, so we have to, there are all kinds of stories that, we were told. So we have to, we should be able to prioritize them. First, should I fight for the starving kids, my starving kids, or this stupid flag or whatever, or building a shrine at every uh, street corner or what, or something like that. So we have to evaluate what's real and what's not. And then the people will have to unite under the real issue. I don't think that is an artificial thing. That has to be that will be, if we recognize that this is our real problem, let's work on it. It will be a natural unification. I don't think that will be a artificial unification. Okay, then your second part is, how can we get this message coming from the top in a more convincing way? So that's exactly what I'm asking Now, Ram and Lasil, they
Yeah.
propose
Can I
this,
answer that one?
the system. Yes, please.
Okay. I think you cannot change the attitudes of the current political parties. They are so powerful, there is no need for them to listen to us under the current system. Therefore, if we wanted to make any change, we need to have a new political parties. As Chula said earlier, good people should be willing to participate in that and form it. Then only you can change it. There is a thing about divide and rule. But I do not think, if you, in my experience, I may be wrong. In my experience, the average man does not have the division of race, religion, and caste. I experienced this one during multiple, more than one, uh, or really three instances where there was an attack on the Tamil minorities by the politicians back thugs 77, 83, and 87. And I think it's an experience of several Tamils. The average singular man helped them to protect those average Tamil people from the politically backed thugs. And I saw that. That's one of the reasons I didn't want to leave this country, because they were so. I didn't have a single scratch on my uh, body or property, thanks to the average citizen. And that was, and I think the problem is no good people are willing to come into politics and start telling the truth. So that should happen. And it is, I'm very disappointed because I looked at from 2018. In the 2018, that's what I was a bit disappointed. There were four independent groups, and we wanted to put them together. It did not work. Every one of them wanted to contest alone. Even during this time, I think I have been contacted by six groups, but all of them are in isolation. They have restricted uh, participation, and they are not willing to work together as a big force to defeat this political thuggery that is happening in our country, so that voters will have a chance to vote with their head. I think we should all try to figure out how to make good people come together, because the way the current some of the people who work on this one, if they come to power, it will be worse than this. It is not only the good uh, intention that matters, it also should be supported by good administration, good strategy, good planning, mobilizing large number of people. The group I worked with in 2018 as an independent political platform, they put out a presidential candidate. They only got to 50,000 votes. The same thing will happen even in 2024, the way it is going. Unless and otherwise, all good people get together, forgetting their ego, and form a political party, none of the things that we are thinking about can be implemented in this country. That's only way to implement is a new political party with new faces, all working together for the good of the country. The, that is the only way it will work. No amount of lobbying, propaganda will work with the current political parties. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ram. Lasil has raised hand, and then Preeti is also waiting. Thank you for that. And one thing that I want to say to Ram, if you get invited to speak somewhere, go and speak. Tell your view, tell you understand, because we all are gaining from that. And that's the only way we can make it happen. Speak up, and speak up. Okay, so Lasil, you have raised the hand now, Lasil.
Yeah, actually, in our country, the biggest problem is, these people have been in power too long. They have stabilized themselves so very well. They have the money, they have everything. Even in the public sector, most of the appointments, are held by most of their stooges, I would say. So this is a problem, but that does not sort of, stop or prevent our moving towards uniting everybody and working together. Because for me, I feel like, who is this? One of the, that was Prime Minister Churchill had said, when you think of a government, I mean, the least bad form of is a democratic government. So we have to tell everybody we have undergone all these hardships due to bad governance, autocratic kind of rule, and they have altogether, say continue. Now I think people are there to unite and work together. But unfortunately, everybody is so cautious for some reason or the other, because imagine even during the Aragale, they manipulated the whole thing in style. So we don't want to go through all that. We have to be very cautious. I think if you move slowly, I believe things might work, because what we really need, you know, to strengthen our kind of say groups, because these people, even the government, may try everything possible to do all the things, delaying tactics, this, that, and all that. But slowly and steadily, we should move forward. I think that's the only way to do that. Now, looking at the big picture, like Ram said, whatever said and done in this country, there has been all kinds of manipulations. Now see, in 1983 riots, I was just married. We were returning from Norelia, and we heard about this, you know, the killings and all that. Actually, my boss was a Tamil gentleman, a thorough gent, one Mrs. Sivanagam, who is in Australia now. We didn't have mobiles those days, and I stopped by the roadside and I got a call and I spoke to Mr. Simanagam. He said, "Yes, Leslie, we are in real trouble." And even he was at Anderson Golf Links flats. And what I did was I left my wife. We were at Tulkota then, and we brought the whole family there. Like what I said, Ram said, this is how we are all together. We are all there together, and there's no problem. Actually, always it was the politicians who abused all that, and eventually, created that kind of situations. But we have proved even during the Aragale, now they don't have all such kind of thinking, with the communal or whatever. So what is needed? We have to move forward cautiously, and we know what happened to us. So naturally, if you carefully move forward, right, because we have understood what kind of system needs to be introduced, and that also needs to be told that we really need certain reforms in the governance model. I think there will be no problem at all. Probably people are there. Like Ram said again, we have to have good people. Actually, we have to have a set of good people who will be trusted by the general public, because they are not going to trust anybody simply because we give them a kind of list of names, nominations. That's not the way. We have to carefully identify the right type of people with a clear track record, good background, right? if that is the case, I think there is definitely uh, I mean, I'm confident that we'll be able to do it, and we have to do it somehow this time, because it is our duty, and it is also an obligation on our part to talk to everybody, send this message across, because even at the the grassroots level, the villagers, etc. People are asking, ඔබතුමන්ලා කොහොමද මේ කරන්නේ? දැන් ඇත්තට we are now on that job, right? So my humble message is, there are little issues. Let us always take up all those for discussions and iron out all that. It is possible, but only thing, we need a set of very good people who will be really, without any hesitation, the general public will accept a good set of people, and we are there. I mean, let's do that. Let's go towards that. The most important thing is we have to try and send the message across to the whole country and even our friends overseas, because everybody need to get together. And there's a possibility, I think, system change, everybody wants it, and we are also sure whatever said and done, it could be done, and let's move forward with confidence. I think we should be able to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Lasil, for that comment. And I think I got next is Preeti, although he's not raised hand, he's sent a text. Preeti, yes, Preeti, you can speak now. Preeti? You are muted still, Preeti. You can see now, yeah. Still muted. We can't hear you still. I think you're still muted.
Can you hear it now?
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Right. Thank you. Sorry for that. Interesting to note that many of the speakers were of the view that it's a question of governance. The issue is governance, I think. Even the first speaker spoke about the issue of governance, and then what flows from it, the corruption, the indiscipline, the wastage, and then how it seeps into poverty and all that. And this issue has become like the governance issue. And the type of governance has become a culture, which has to be changed. And I think the last presentation, the last weeks, if I'm not mistaken, by Lassell, covering these 5 pillars of governance, is an excellent initiative. And that is what we should be pushing and promoting and educating the people about, because most of our voters are not really, aware of governance. Why have they suffered today, and what has happened? And the need to change the system, because the Aragale itself was all about a system change. So people know, but they don't know what and how. So those 5 pillars are very, very clear, I think, and that's something that we should really promote in a big way to the people. And the means to get there would be not just social media, but our networks. We all have networks. Most of us, not only this present network, many other networks. And then the media, social media, print, electronic, we still have a connection to them. So there are ways of getting in. And then another one opening is, if our present president tries one of his good deal making tricks of presenting a bill to revamp a bit of the constitution, we will get an opening to go to the Supreme Court with our 5 pillars. and then promote that also in a big way. So this is just the one of the methods that we can use in order to try and make it happen. Then comes some of the other ideas expressed. Sri Lanka, I mean, we are a small country, we don't have much resources. No, but I think we do, we are a resourceful country. We have been always, how would I say, we have recovered from whatever misery that has hit us. We have, we had a war for 30 years. We recovered from that. We had a Easter bombing. We recovered from that. We had a COVID, and then we recovered from the economy crashed. We recovered from that. And all that, the first point of recovery was tourism, the lowest hanging fruit, they call it. And this country is a beautiful country, endowed with so much of resources, not only the nature, the sun and sand, but our greenery, the mountains, the diversity, and our ancient history and culture. That's what people want. That's why we rank one of the best for tourism in the world, although our numbers are still less because of partly the ups and downs we had and the disturbances, and secondly, also the geographical location to get there. So other countries have an advantage, like, say, for example, France, very well located in the European hemisphere. So therefore, a lot of tourism happens in between, and they have a massive tourism base. So for us, it'll have to fly across here, but that also now, let's say, distances are becoming smaller with the in the modern day. So that is one aspect, but we haven't also made use of our ocean resources. We are an island nation covered by an ocean. There is wind energy, ocean energy, and then there are a lot of resources underneath, underground, within the ocean. I know we spoke about the law of the sea and Shirley Amar Singh's contribution to that. So you see even they are now talking about the greater economic zone, and we can make use of all of those things. Our fisheries sector has been neglected. The Indians are poaching all the time. Nothing much has got done. Our agriculture, we were a net exporter at one time, but it's been neglected. Even our traditionals of tea, rubber, and coconut have gone down. So these are the areas that we should be adding value-added exports, not just exporting raw. Then look at our human capital. Although they're just the basic, the literacy rates are pretty good, but that doesn't mean anything much. What it means is really the quality of education and the employability, which we need to improve upon. True, maybe, sort of like an outcome-based learning system, not just examination. So all of these things need revamp, rethinking. So our country is blessed. We have always recovered from disasters. So there is not a thing to say that we are small, we can't do this. No, we can. So invest into the right area. Then another thing that is greatly lacking is the unity. Now we have been having this question of the minorities built up, of course, politically over the years, but still nothing much gets done. I remember in 2012, I was heading the UNESCO National Commission here in Sri Lanka, and Dr. Abdul Kalam, former president, the late president of India, came here, and they launched this trilingual policy. That was the Mahinda Rajapaksa government, though. But to date, 11 years later, nothing. Where is the trilingual? Where is the investment into language? These are things that can bind the people together. These are things that can help bring up our national, a good identity, but not done or not doing enough. So these are the things I wanted to share with you. There's a lot more, but in this short time. And finally, I think let's all get together, look at the 5 pillars very seriously, enhance that document, have it shared, publicize it, take it to the people, and I'm sure we will get a better voting population at the next election. Still there is time, but not much time. But let's go for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Preeti, for highlighting the optimistic aspects that we have, and also the resources and the power we have if we are together. So we can get there, and there's two other people who's actually raised hands. So let's take them first, and then we can conclude. Leonard, yes, Leonard.
Yes, first of all, thank you very much, Gunda, Lasil, Ram, and Ranjan for the excellent presentation. And from the first Gunda, yes, Gunda's presentation, I was to pick up this tribal instinct and how to get rid of that. And with that also I think Rams mentioned about disunity. I think both of these can be sort of worked out through media and education. And I hope we have independent media in Sri Lanka, and not so much the cynical approach or rhetoric or uh, satire, but more on logical or factual presentation of things. So these things can be addressed. It will take a long time, but gradually we can change the way people think, get rid of the tribal instinct. In fact, in my presentation, I mentioned about the flags. Now it's not to change. The idea is not to change the flags, but the idea is to change the concept. Say we work here in Australia with people from different countries. Our focus is getting the work done. So it's sort of a unity focus on getting the work done rather than criticizing what that person said or this person said or that doesn't agree with us. We present, if we disagree, we discuss that openly as a matter to be considered as a factual matter, not from your own personal likes or dislikes. So I think that kind of discussion can get into media and I think Sri Lankans are quite intelligent. You can sort of put across some of these points on the tribal instinct, disunity, and something that Gunda has been talking about, speaking about Buddhism itself, what Buddha taught. And I think uh, very, very easily this can be communicated to the public that what the politicians have been doing is not what Buddha taught. What is required is in Pansil, Atasil, all that is said about the bad things that they have been doing, robbing and killing and all that kind of thing. That is not the religion. That is something else. And then you go and offer flowers. So that's not the focus. So I think if you communicate these basic ethical principles in the religion itself, people are willing to accept, and that's something that sort of we can work on it. So that's one area, the media. The second area is on law and order. So we need to have law and order, and that's where the 5 pillars come in, and you draw the boundaries between the powers. And as somebody mentioned earlier, that we are we we are not good people in a sense. We all have the potential to do evil, seeing the money and power, and therefore we need to have laws, and nobody's above the law, and uh, we need to enforce, and you can't be threatening. If somebody threatens somebody because he's doing the real right thing, then that person should be punished. And that law enforcement has to come in very strongly. And I have this, and also with that, the Constitution must empower, to ensure that the powers are separated. And I have a feeling that the judiciary must have some sort of a superior power in Sri Lanka. And, uh, and of course, they should be able to implement that. Because why I say that is, say, the judges, uh, they have been giving making decisions or giving judgments objectively. That's one. And the second thing is they are educated. And the third thing is they are apolitical. So when you compare the three powers, and I have a feeling that judiciary, the Supreme Court, Chief Justice, and them should be fairly high above. And if you have a non-executive governor general or governor, he should be also in that category of powers. Uh, and then the third one that I see is in the civil service. I think the civil service must be completely independent. Treasury, the finance department, central bank, all these must be able to sort of work with the focus on achieving results, not just taking a salary and going home, but for more focus on achieving results, particularly with the economy. And I think Gunda also mentioned at the start, economy is a important aspect. And in fact, when I talked to Basil Fernando the other day, he mentioned that, say, forget about the problems of your ethnicity and religion, all that. What is now important is the economy, and that is the paradigm of the time. People want to have a good economy in the country. So that part should be in the hands of the civil service, the experts in their subject areas, not the politician. Politician has no power to overrule decisions that these people make. So these are some of my observations in terms of how we could sort of achieve three things. One is to the media, second, law enforcement, and third is the civil service. Thank you.
Thank you, Leonard, for that. We got three more people waiting to raise hands, so I will proceed with them because we also now nearly 2 hours. Yes, Jivanand, yeah. G?
Oh, thank you, thank you. I didn't realize that I was next in line. Thank you, Chula.
Yeah.
So, couple of, I think I should respond to a couple of people since they alluded to a couple of things that I said. To Ram, I think the race is not the major problem right now in Sri Lanka. As you said, during the 83 riots, I happened to be in Jaffna visiting one of my professors over there. I came home, without any problem. They took care of me, took care of everything without any problem. So I think our main problem is the allegiance to party tribalism, to political parties. Um, I think that's what, say, for example, if the party X promises me or my family a job or some commission or whatever, then, we have that loyalty. We keep voting them no matter what they do. So I think that's the kind of tribal instinct that we have to overcome. So to all of you, I'm going back to, most of you are talking about, the future, what could happen, what can happen. I'm coming back to the present. Let me put this question. Okay, my question could be stupid because I'm not in the ground over there, so I don't know the ground situation. My question, especially to Lasil, is that can a negative vote work at this point? Meaning, if we don't vote for all the crooks at our next election, whether it's presidential or parliamentary, what would be the outcome? If the reasonable people are left out there in the parliament, aren't they forced to work together? Please.
Ranjan, you are next, but can I allow Lasil to answer that as well as to conclude his remark at this point? Is that okay with Ranjan?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Ranjan, Lasil, yes, you can answer this question and also talk. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Actually, Leonard, before Giva spoke of the economy, I would look at, you know, through the governance, whatever model, because all the problems what we are facing now is purely because governance failure. Actually, even now in this situation, all what we need to do is to put the governance structure right. Now, see, what did the central bank do? What are those in the parliament? What are they up to? Unless you correct those things, you will never be able to overcome any of those other issues, like whether it is the economy. Now, our biggest problem is, I personally think, even at this moment, they are borrowing endlessly. We might even go into another kind of a bankrupt situation within a very short period, because they have not been able to manage basically the imports and the exports. There's a deficit. And with regard to the budget, there's a problem. This has been the problem from the 70s onwards. So naturally, the way I look at the whole big picture, the priority should be the setting up of the governance system correct. Now, if you do that, I think most of the problems that we are facing right now could be overcome within a very short period. Now, they say even even the problems with the SMEs and all that basically is a problem due to the economic crisis. I would say no, because it was a crisis. They could not run the governance, run the establishments, because the power went up, the dollar went up, they couldn't import. So all that ultimately was due to bad governance. Over a period, they felt what was going wrong. They never wanted to take corrective measures. So looking at the big picture, we have to understand all the problems what we are facing right now is purely because bad governance system that we had continued for the last so many decades. Now, looking at now, Jiva asked about tribalism and political parties. Actually, this is a problem not only in Sri Lanka. I would say even in India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, all those, even in America for that matter, because some people they say we are Republicans. What I am trying to say, the political parties should have definitely an act where they have to be controlled through certain other legal whatever means, and they should not be allowed to do anything what they want. I mean, that could be definitely controlled if you have the kind of governance system again in place. Now, again, about this negative votes, actually we have a duty. I think Chula has come up with a very good system how to resolve this big issue. Basically, we have to ensure that the voters go and use their vote at the elections, because if they don't do that, it is inadvertently, supporting the same groups to come back to power. So naturally, like what Chula said, I think Chula has done a very good job there. The system, the system needs to be whatever strengthened, so that the message will go to the people that they should always go and vote the right person, in the sense that unfortunate situation again, even there, they have no choice. So my suggestion is, it's a new group of people that should come forward and send the message across that they should be voted and they should be brought to power. That is the only way that we would be able to settle this issue, say, by doing the maximum possible in that direction. Thank you. Do you need any more?
Thanks, Lasil. Thank you. We're nearly 2 hours now. So Ranjan has raised the hand, and then Preeti will conclude. Thank you. Yes,
Thank
Ranjan.
you. I think we have spent enough time on the problem, discussing the problem, and I think all of us have got it well and truly worked into us. We should now spend more time on the action side. We must devote more time to decide upon an action plan to achieve our objective. That is what we should do now. A similar situation prevailed. I can give this as an example to inspire us. A similar situation prevailed in 1956, on the eve of 1956 elections. There were several groupings, various parties, and there was also Mr. Bandaranaike's SLFP. he was, his great success was, he was able to create, bring under one umbrella all these groupings, all the groupings. Yes. And he even, this is something that I admire. He was even willing to sacrifice his ego a bit and bring his party also under that umbrella, under a new name, Mahajana Exat Peramon. Under the Mahajana Exat Peramuna, there was the SLFP. He didn't want. He was not determined. He was willing to concede his SLFP also to be brought under this common umbrella. Mahajana Exat Peramuna. There was the SLFP. There was a LSSP. There was a CP. Then there was Mr. Philip Gunawardana's party, VLSSP. Then there was Dhanayaka's, some Bosat Bandayaka Peruna or something, some organization like that, some party like that. And KMP Rajaratna's party. He brought all of them under this umbrella and called it the Mahajana, gave it a common name acceptable to all. Now, that is the important point. You see, if he insisted that it should be under his SLFP name, then he would never have been able to win the election. He would never have been able to bring all these parties under one common umbrella. That was his wisdom. I can see even today's papers, various people are trying to bring together this unity, but under their name, his name. Now recently, NPP, JVP, they also want others who want to join them under their name. Then Dasri Jayasekar also same. Sajit Premadasa same. Ranil Wickramasinghe same. It won't work. You see, it won't. They are not going to surrender their egos. We are very egocentric people in Sri Lanka. We are a very, very egocentric people. So it will never work. Bandaranaike saw this. That is why he was willing to give up leadership under his name, under his flag, and create a new flag. Maybe anyone. This is the message I'm passing on to you, the lesson that we have learned from past political history of us. See, I think we should, from now on, stop this discussion about the problem. I think all of us know it very much now. All of us get together and devise, come up with a strategic plan, under where we can unite all the people whom we think are good, all the good people according to our definition of that word, and bring them all under one umbrella. Shall we start doing this? I think if we succeed, I think we'll be able to make it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ranjan. In relation to strategic planning, this is actually slowly developing invisibly within us. So it will surface very soon. So I'm glad that you are pointing on that. And I think Preeti wanted to make a concluding remark, and then we will stop there. Thank you so much, Preeti. Yes.
Thank you, Chula. I think we came around and finally to the strategic planning and an action plan. I think that's what is needed right now. And time is of the essence. You'd see, I mean, every day we read in the papers or here on TV or in social media that people are trying to form various strategic partnerships or trying to get together and club together. But it doesn't seem likely, as the previous speaker pointed out, where there are egos at play, it's not going to be easy at all. So in this situation, where we can come in would be to try and promote our systems change, our pillars of governance to all through a public document. There is hardly any time to be forming a new party, get new people in and so on. So that is, I think, the strategy and the action plan I would like to propose. Then we were talking about also that we need to concentrate purely on economics. But to that, I think it's a firm no. I would like to end that with a quote from the UN Constitution that a peace based exclusively upon purely political and economic arrangements would not be a peace which could secure the unanimous, lasting, and sincere support of the people of the world. And that if the peace is therefore to be founded, if it is not to fail upon the moral solidarity of mankind. So this is where we cannot just purely concentrate on economics, but the social, economic and social aspects. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Preeti. Thank you so much for everybody's contributions today. There are lots of good messages that has come through. If I summarize, I mean, our motive should be to bring back sovereignty to our people. And if you are invited to speak up, whatever the platform that is, please do go and speak up and then repel whatever that is being promoted to divide and rule. That's one thing that we can do. And also the strategy is, I think, is invisibly developing, as well as our kind of impact as an invisible party. So we are not a party, but we can make an impact and get all people to vote. It will come to that. We will discuss that. Next week, the 5 pillars will come back to talking again. So please be there. I think I have already dispatched the draft document. Okay, great. Have a good evening, good night, and a good morning. Thank you so much for today. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you very much.